Welcome back to the OrthoK podcast. My name is Matthew Herzberg, and I'm the Executive Director of the American Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control. And what I have for you today is the final episode of the three-part series going over the agenda of Vision by Design. This episode was recorded back during SECO, and I had Chairman of the Board, Cary Herzberg, join me for a discussion on the business side of myopia control, as well as a deep dive into the agenda for Saturday and Sunday's program. But before we get to the episode, I want to take this opportunity to remind you that we are now just about a full month from Vision by Design, which means if you're planning on attending VBD, now is the time to register before our early bird pricing ends on April 16th. That's when all fees for registration will go up, so now is the time to get that best price for the meeting. We're also offering a $50 off all practitioner registration options if you use the code VBD2019 at checkout. All you have to do is go to www.orthokmeeting.com, register for the meeting, and then enter that promo code VBD2019 at checkout to save $50. All right, I have on the line with me Dr. Cary Herzberg, past president of the American Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control, and the current chairman of the board of directors, as well as the president of the International Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control. Cary, welcome.
Hey, Matt, thanks. It's great to be here. It's great talking with you again, and one of my favorite subjects, Vision by Design.
Yes, we started this series with Caroline Kauke talking in depth about boot camp, and then we went to President Paul Levine to cover the first part. And I wanted to go into more depth about Vision by Design, continuing in what we've done so far by talking about Saturday and Sunday's program. But the first thing I wanted to start off with was in the Facebook group Optical Independence, Van Roo recently posted on there starting a discussion about Vision by Design and invited us to weigh in on it. And I liked one of the questions he proposed, which was who is speaking on myopia control? And why does this offer such a unique opportunity from a business perspective? So I was hoping you could speak on that first before we go into the actual program of Saturday and Sunday.
Sure. It's myopia. I mean, we're one of the oldest organizations to actually incorporate myopia control in its title and name, and actually have a program in place for many, many years now that actually talked about myopia control and had some really good gems for the doctors to learn and things that they could put into their practice almost right away. So we go way back with this thing. But I think what surprises us even to this day is that there's still this opportunity out there to practice myopia control. It's not something that's being done, at least not grasped by the most of the industry at this point, I would say. And so there's still opportunity if a doctor's interested in growing their practice. This is a niche area still that can provide them with opportunities that they wouldn't normally see in regular practice. For instance, there are many different ethnic groups that are affected differently by myopia control, and in particularly Chinese and Indian folks are seem to be adversely affected the most. And this is two groups that are very loyal and will come to you and visit your practice specifically if you're doing this, taking care of this problem, because they have a huge issue with this. So you can open a tap almost in your practice to these areas that are just wouldn't normally search you out if you're doing myopia control.
So if we're talking about myopia control, what is that specifically? Because obviously OrthoK is a part of myopia control, but what else is in that spectrum?
Well, it's a whole bunch of things. It's it can be anywhere from behavioral changes where you're going to have kids go outdoors more often and take more frequent breaks, and watching your ergonomics or in front of a computer screen, watching your lighting in that environment. It can also then detail with fitting either special soft multifocal lenses that are better, optically better for this defocus effect and will control myopia better. And again, ortho-K is another thing, or it could be a pharmaceutical approach where if you just choose to use the low-dose atropine or some higher doses of atropine to control it. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. That's what makes it an area that's so exciting, because a doctor doesn't have to be particularly skilled in one area or another, but if they offer a lot of these different areas, then they can actually cover quite the gamut for their patients and offer this as a very valuable resource to their patients.
All right, and when it comes to myopia control, given the rate of the myopia epidemic, how integral is this going to be to the average practice?
Well, that's always, especially here in the States, that's always something that you get questions more often than not, because I travel a lot overseas and to China and India and all, Europe and all over, and you can see the growth there is, this is a scary proposition, and our patients, the folks, our doctors are already motivated to do something about it because they can see the handwriting on the wall. Here in America, it seems to fly a bit under the radar, which is surprising because myopia has grown 60% in the last 25 years and now has an incidence rate of over 40% in the United States. And the Brian Holden Vision Institute projects out that the U.S. will be over 50% incidence of myopia by the year 2050. So that's half your population. To me, that's a problem, particularly when you gauge in the number. It becomes a numbers game with myopia. The number of patients who are affected by myopia, and then the percentage of those that will have high myopia, which is where the higher incidence of pathologies and diseases can occur because of the degree. And so being a numbers game, it's going to rise dramatically. As your numbers rise, as your incidence number rises, then there's a percentage of those that will develop this high myopia. And for instance, we're projecting worldwide that 20% of the 5 billion people, that's an amazing number, that will become nearsighted by the year 2050. 20% of those will have high myopia. That's 1 billion folks. And we're talking, these are people, these are kids, these are teenagers, these are young adults, these are 20-year-olds and on up. And they're now going to be afflicted with this problem that they're going to face later in life when things begin to happen, and you have the pathologies occurring with cataracts and glaucoma and myopic macular degen and retinal detachments, which are the things that do occur at a much higher rate when your prescription does rise over 5 diopters.
And this is a bell that's being rung pretty loud, to the point where I think that when I talk about vision by design in an exhibit hall, like right now I'm recording this, I'm at SECO. We have a booth at SECO. So when someone comes up to the booth and I start talking about the meeting, and myopia control may seem like an intimidating prospect to the average person, the average doctor looking to incorporate this in their practice. And so what I'd like to do is explain, or at least better flesh out, how our program is suited to work for the attendee and how that's going to help them incorporate into that practice. And that's why I wanted to focus on, the latter half of Vision by Design with you.
Sure. And I think it's a great question. And obviously I think Vision by Design, once you get to know the program, you'll understand just how dynamic it is. You start from the basic stuff and you move into the intermediate and the advanced part of it. It can all be done in that those 4.5 days that Vision by Design covers, and very effectively. And that's the surprising part, because it's all there. It's all packed in there. It's an amazing nuggets of information that are available on all these different areas.
That's right. And that's the thing about Vision by Design is, for the length in which our meeting has been out there, it has been a myopia control focused meeting. Mm-hmm. It started as an orthokeratology meeting, but myopia control was always present, and it's something that is a huge part of our program. So
yeah, the original planning for myopia control was, and the ortho-K itself, it could see early on that we needed to, ortho-K was not going to be enough for what was going on, and we needed to move into a myopia control, and that was something that happened about 15 years ago. And that first exhibited in the Vision by Design program, where I first started having those, like I said, those early seminars on myopia control, when this was like, people were just in this area were just beginning to learn how to crawl. And so we were already, getting into it because we could see way ahead of time that this is an area we needed to go into and needed to cover because this was going to be the topic,
Right. So let's delve into Saturday and let's go through the program.
Sure.
And provide a little bit more information, and let's be in depth, and so we can accurately describe what Vision by Design is all about. Because I think a lot of this can kind of be a little bit overwhelming. There's so much going on with this meeting. There's so much in the agenda. There's so much to sink your teeth in. I think what happens with a lot of people is they look at the agenda, or they look at the program, and they say, where do I begin? And for some people, that's boot camp. For other people, it's going on beyond boot camp and into the general session. So what are we starting off with on Saturday in our educational program?
Yeah, we're kicking the thing right off, Matt, right early in the morning with Thomas Aller is going to be talking on axial length. And Tom is one of those folks that, he's famous, he's Tom. What hasn't Tom done?
Right.
He's very active in all these myopia control groups and organizations, and known Tom for a long, long time. And he's really going to discuss with the attendees how to use axial length, how you do it, and how you utilize it, what you look for. And this is like coding. It's like you get this down. To most folks, it's just a number. But Tom will break that number down and tell you this is where you need to pay attention. This is if it does this or that, and really give you like a guide to how to evaluate your patients based on their axial length. And using protocols that he's developed for this thing, I think it's going to be really exciting because he's been one of the leaders in this field. And basically with myopia control is really coming down to controlling axial length. So you can't, this is really like basic stuff like for myopia control. You gotta keep that eyeball from elongating. So and Tom will, that's his seminar kicking off the first thing in the morning on Saturday. After we go into that, the next part of the program is kind of interesting. I'm involved with this. I don't always get involved with these U.S.-based programs very much anymore. I'm speaking a lot overseas, but this was something that really, that Marino Fermenti and I have done for a long time with the fellowship classes and with our advanced track we were giving in years past. But we're breaking down intermediate and advanced ortho-K into two different tracks to allow enough people to make choices that they'll be comfortable with and intend and get the most out of each seminar. And basically, I'm doing the intermediate track, which we call an Ortho-K 201. And this one is for folks that have done approximately 10 cases or so of Ortho-K, and now they're wondering, where do I go to from here? In other words, they've gotten their feet wet, they cut they cut the teeth a little bit, and now they want to know is what do you do after that, right? You passed the beginning part, you got some cases under your belt. Now, how do I, improve my practice from there? How do I improve my treatment outcomes? How do I take on these more difficult cases? How do I get past that 80% mark, which is really the cutoff that most Ortho-K designs are successful for like 80% of the population. But that last 20% is really what we spend a lot of time on discussing, because these are the ones that are going to really make or break an Ortho-K practice, because you want to be able to take all of your cases and treat them successfully. You don't want to be missing out on the 20% that aren't working out with the basic Ortho-K fit. So 201 is really that level that, just past beginner, that gets up to from 10 to 25 cases or so. And then we get into the advanced part, which we're calling 401, and that's my good friend Marino Fermenti is teaching that. And that's really getting on to more advanced principles, dealing with large amounts of astigmatism, improving your myopia control outcomes, improving your treatment outcomes. All the things that you think about to how to evaluate fit, how to straighten out, problem solve those issues that you're going to inevitably run into when we treat these patients, because without a doubt, one of the things that's most of the fascinating things about Ortho-K is the fact that there's still this unknown. I enjoy that with every patient. You can have a 2-diopter myope that could be sometimes more problems than a 5 and 6 diopter myope, and you're starting to scratch your head and say, how did that happen? Why am I having so much difficulty with this low myope? It's not responding yet. I've done much higher cases. Well, things that are covered in that advanced class will really go into that, in great detail and give you that lay of the land, so to speak, for how to deal with these other cases that you're now getting into, that you've done those first 25, and now you want to really respond and move into the real advanced part of your practice, where you're going to be taking on some of the cases that will cross most doctors' eyes, and saying, well, I wouldn't do that, but you can. You'll feel more comfortable taking those on anyway.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important part of the program is I think that, there are people that go through boot camp and then come to Vision by Design, and I think there is a next step of that program, and that's why I'm excited about this portion of Vision by Design, because for the first time we're going to split people into two different tracks. We're going to let people attend to the portion that makes sense for them. And I think that this is a step in the right direction to address a need that we definitely should have or could have developed further in past meetings. So this is really just kind of responding to that need for this part of the program.
It really is, Matt. You're right on in that. And not only is going to happen, but the intention here is to make this, is to do this through the whole program, to kind of jumpstart everybody in their myopia control practices. That not only we're doing this for Ortho-K, but the intention is to do it across the board for everything that we're talking about here with myopia control, to give them that beyond class, that will push their skill levels and challenge them to do better and better. So we're not sitting on any of our laurels. We want to make this even better than it's been in the past.
Right. That's one of the things that we always establish to try to do is improve in any way, shape, or form that we can. So after that, we're going to go into manufacturer seminars, which the attendees will have the opportunity to attend. Those will be offered by our gold and platinum sponsors. We'll have more information forthcoming on those as we get closer to the meeting. But after that, we're going to go into a fellowship announcement on Saturday. And then we have the practice management with Cary Gerber. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Gary's a good friend, and he's got this concept, Treehouse Eyes, now that's really catching on, and a lot of doctors are excited about it, and we're excited for Gary. We like what he's doing here, and he's a good partner with us. And so, Gary's concept here is to really teach this in this practice management part, the things that he's learned in his first 2+ years of doing this, a launch. He's going to share with the attendees the kinds of things that he's been able to figure out as far as how to market these things and promote yourself. And this is invaluable tools, and there'll be a lot of research they've done already at Treehouse that he's going to disclose for them. So these are really like gold nuggets that are going to be available to anyone attending those things, that, here's basically what they've learned, in the 2 years, what to do, what not to do, and some of the numbers that he'll have for you that, will make that it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to be there listening very actively for Gary. He's amazing. So he's going to share all these things with us. It's really exciting.
Right. And then after that, we have some topics with Oliver Wu and Jalma speaking.
Yes, Oliver is just going to discuss the many. You hear about all these myopia control things, but he's going to give you the things that you can do, in addition to that, that really the kind of the things we do all, with in more advanced fitting with Ortho-K that, will develop that part of the practice for you. And there's a lot of, like progressive corrections, for presbyopes, high astigmatism cases, these oddball kinds of things that you run into, that where the cornea just isn't exactly, the myopic cornea, but it, that you typically see, but maybe a little bit of a variation of that, or, irregular stigmatism, other things. So Ali has this really amazing practice in Australia, in Sydney, and he's going to share the things he's doing with Ortho-K that are kind of beyond what just the normal level that we think about, and kind of getting into some of the kind of really cool things you can do in an Ortho-K practice. And then after that, Jama's going to present on a topic about the field of soft lens multifocals, where he's going to have some real interesting data on how they do their myopia control and how those lenses really work. There's a lot of mystery and how what's going on with a multifocal, these specially designed multifocal lenses that do this Ortho-K part of it. And Jama's going to take some of that mystery away from it, and then move into and show you actually charts and graphs and numbers to tell you how these things actually really work, and to give you some ideas so you can predict some outcomes if you want to pick this lens or that lens, or what you might expect.
And then after that, we have a novel device to monitor individual visual hygiene for myopia control with Helen Duan.
Yes, this is really her research that she's done in China, and she's actually brought a company over that actually will be at in our booth, will be exhibiting with us, that has designed some of this high-tech equipment that monitors eyeball movements and positions and distances and everything else. It's really this kind of information is really something, that we realize as a myopia control specialist, and or myopia management specialist, depending on how your comfort zone. But I think, more and more we're learning that we need more and more data, that we're just, it's just simply not cornea that we're dealing with anymore. It's like vitreal depth. It's like peripheral retina, it's central retina. It has to do with the corneal types of eccentricities around the cornea. It has to do with the environment that you present the eyeball and human being in, and what that environment exists with lighting, with distances of different objects, with peripheral refraction, with all kinds of other things. So these devices are being, there's high-tech stuff that's come through with in this era where we can do those kinds of things. Is now, focusing on the eye, no pun intended here. And Helen's presentation is really an interesting one that you don't want to miss, as far as it's going to go into a lot of what they're doing now in China in research. And China, let me tell you, China is just off the charts as far as the innovation and high-tech stuff that's coming. And there's a challenge for our industry here, because I think America's sat in its laurels too long, especially in this field. And if we don't watch out, I mean, most of the stuff that's going to be happening overseas rather than here in the U.S., because we're letting it. We're permitting the fact that we're not doing the kind of research that I know can make a difference here in this field.
Okay, so what do we have after Dr. Duan's talk?
Matt, I know this. Paul and I have been working on this, Paul, to get this done, and Paul's done the lion's share. And Craig Steinberg's coming to do an hour-length presentation with us. As many people know, Craig's an OD, but he's also a JD too. He's a legal lawyer, and he's coming to do a special favor for us. There's a lot of information out there, and there's we have FDA approval, we have off-label, we have all kinds of things going on in our field today, and Craig is going to be there to explain what that means, how to prepare yourself, how to be legally ready for all these challenges that we face in our practice. What happens if you fit a higher than 6 diopter myopia? You go beyond FDA, or you use a material that's not approved for this or that, or you use a design that's not approved for this or that. So there's a lot of little things that are going on that could become big things in our field. And Craig will be here for that hour to talk about these things and what we need to know about that, how we need to prepare our practices to deal with these kinds of things. Because after all, we're doing, many of us are doing this thing every day, and we really need to know exactly what this involves and what we're getting into. And Craig will be there for that. This is probably going to be one of the most valuable parts of the whole conference. Not to diminish anything else that's going on, but this is a place you want to be sitting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, listening to what he has to say here, because this is a big deal. After Craig's done, we finish with that. We're going to be talking again. There's a presentation done by Dr. Xu from China, the effect of visual function variations on blur sensitivity in children after applying orthokeratology. And this is another example of some of the, there's an amazing, I do peer review in addition to everything else that I do for eye and contact lens. And there's an amazing amount of research coming out of China, and we're just giving you a little glimpse of it here. But this will be a very valuable one to understand what that exactly means, as far as how to interpret that data and what kind of applications that will have towards orthokeratology itself, and how it affects visual function. So he's going to bring this research to us. So again, we're very excited to have that opportunity.
Fantastic. So does that close us out for the day?
Except for we have our AAOMC membership meeting, which we'd like to encourage even non-members to hang around. That starts a little bit after the last presentation, 15 minutes or so, to find out exactly what is behind this Vision by Design. This is the organization, the AAOMC, the American Academy of orthokeratology and myopia control that puts this thing on. I mean, there's no Vision by Design without the Academy, and you can, find out more about us. Just attend this meeting. You're very welcome to sit in and see how we work, and we'd love to have you come in and participate with us if you'd like to join up. But this would be a great opportunity for people that haven't seen the organization behind the meeting to see what that's all about.
Yeah, that's true. This organization really did create Vision by Design out of a need many years ago, because although there are many conferences now, and myopia control is being talked about in a lot of different places, back in the day, there was a drought in conversation, in presentation of research, gathering of like minds for Ortho-K. And that's really where Vision by Design came about, was the membership came together and said, we need a meeting for orthokeratology, and then it ended up becoming myopia control focused.
Right.
So
well said.
Let's move to Sunday.
Okay, and starting right off the bat on Sunday, we have a couple of our fellows that have presented papers that were accepted, and they're going to be talking about one of them is Monica Allison, one of our newest board member, about Ortho-K and culturally specific tips. Very important here. We were talking earlier about the fact that you're going to see a lot more Asian patients. You're going to see more patients from India, because these are the folks that are really directly affected the most by myopia, the progressive myopia. And here's how to clue in. I mean, here's how to deal with the cultures that will be brought into your office. And isn't it exciting to have all that diversity in your practice? But yet, how do you, what are the things to look out for? How do you make it the best approach to welcome them into your practice? And then after that, Jeff Ward, a good friend of mine, is how to present or defend myopia control and its options to ophthalmology. Yes, this is it, because more and more we're finding. I mean, I've had in my practice now, I'm getting referrals from clinics that in the old days were like they didn't exactly cooperate with us with optometry, but now these pediatric ophthalmologists, these young ones, are sending me patients, and it's Jeff's going to go into the clues of how to support the argument about what you're doing with myopia control and Ortho-K, and how to present that to an ophthalmology-based audience. And that's extremely important. We have an ophthalmologist on our board, and we have, many ophthalmologists in our group, especially internationally, and we want to grow more. And probably all of us now take care of ophthalmology, kids of ophthalmologists, because they're, especially if they're Chinese or Indian ancestry. And so it's really good to be able to talk to them on that kind of level and give them the information they are looking for and need to support our, the arguments we want to make, why they should be thinking about this.
Yes. And then what do we have after that? Is
we've got
Michael Libson? Yeah,
Mike, good friend Mike, again, been very active in our group for a long time. And Mike's going to be, talking about new findings and new research and new terminology. And this is part of this program is being facilitated by the Scleral Lens Society, and I want to thank them ahead of time for all the things that they've done for us and the speakers we've worked together to provide for this meeting. And so they're going to do a Sunday presentation here. Just got one after another of these great presentations, on scleral lens fitting and troubleshooting. We've got Maria Walker and Langus Mashoud, and presenting on troubleshooting and grand rounds for sclerals. I've been studying sclerals a long time, but you can always use these troubleshooting hints and how to fix some problems. And then life after sclerals, which just again, it's considered another thing about how do you deal with these indications, things we've heard, what's going on with some of the side effects with sclerals. Should be concerned with some of those things. How do you deal with all these issues your patients are having, that will affect their scleral lens wear? So this is again Michael and Maria and Langus are presenting that course as well. A very valuable talk on because these patients come in with baggage. They might be scleral lens. They're wearing scleral lenses for a reason. I mean, they have troubled corneas, other things going on, and oftentimes medical things other than that to concern. And this is going to go into depth on that stuff, because it's extremely valuable. After that, Carolyn Kauke, what can you say about Carolyn? She's been everything for us. What an amazing person she is, and she's been so instrumental in the growth of this organization and just being here with this program. I mean, she's a huge part of what we are. And she's going to be talking. She's been kind enough to talk about the economics of myopia control. And Carolyn's one of our leaders, and she's doing this on a day in and day out basis. Very active, very large practice there in Southern California. And she's going to be going through the nuts and bolts of this thing about the how to present that, how to talk about the epidemic, how to talk to your patients on that level, so they can understand why it's so important that what you're providing, and giving you eyes and ears to what she goes through and what she's looking for, and what that means for you as far as your practice and becoming, we talk about practice independence. It's another part of our thing about being able to, to afford to step out and do some things on your own without being worried about other third-party concerns, and growing a practice, that may be giving you a little bit of that growth that you're not getting, from these other parts of what is reality today for an eye care practice. Then after that, we're going to wrap it, the whole thing, with a panel discussion. And, this is where you get a chance to talk and ask the panel of the Sunday presenters of, exactly what they, points that you brought, you want to ask about their presentations. And then, Matt, it's a wrap. Another year.
It's always amazing how much content goes into every single day of Vision by Design.
Oh my God, I just I'm exhausted just talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to the education committee, because there's always that's the thing about our agenda, is that there's always moving parts, and there's always stuff that everyone's like, man, this would be great to add this year. And unfortunately, not everything makes it. But I want to close things out with, since I'll be with talking with Caroline and Paul and now yourself. So you're kind of the bookend to this 3-part in-depth discussion about our agenda and our program. So our whole program is Wednesday through Sunday.
Yes.
We have boot camp starting on Wednesday, and that's Wednesday, Thursday. But we also have a lot of great things going on Wednesday that's not boot camp. And Thursday, we're going to have some great vendor workshops in the morning. We're going to have the Scleral Lens Education Society. They're going to be doing a workshop in a wet lab. And going along the lines of the comment that I just said about how there's just so much in this program, what would you say to anyone who's looking at this program and saying, this is a hefty chunk of time to take out of my practice to come to Vision by Design? And how would you address that to somebody who is looking at that prospect and is saying, this is a lot of time to take out of my practice? How would you respond to that?
It's a great question, Matt. If I was to draw this just to a set idea about this experience is practice changing and life changing. In other words, the person that walked into Vision by Design on Wednesday will not be the same person that leaves on Sunday. This will invariably affect you positively to take some action in this field of myopia control, and will give you the tools to do that with. And not only that, but you'll be able to meet people along the way that are incredible, life-changing. They've done this thing, and they'll rub off on you, and you'll be able to connect up with many of them. And those kinds, and just to be able to rub shoulders with people like that will change you. It's like anything else. It starts with the fact that you will go with, after finishing this, you'll go back to your practice, and you won't be the same doctor again. You'll look at the patient completely differently. You'll talk to your patients differently. You'll present this myopia control differently, and you'll have that kind of a thing as your patients will be able to tell the difference in you, because it's that kind of an experience. It's life changing. It's practice changing. It is an immersion into what we refer to as preventative care, which is really what myopia control is. It's prevention of disease, preventions of problems. It's preventions for our little kids, our little weebies, to keep them healthy, to give them a life that, where they don't have to worry about progressive myopia, to be able to not be concerned with the fact they may get these pathologies when they get older, to be able to live their lives free of the need of the fact that they're blind, they can't see without glasses or contact lenses on. This is the kind of experience it is. It's life-changing. Your patients will tell you the same thing after you've done this for them. But it's an experience, and if you haven't been there, you don't know yet what you'll find this as you go through it. For those that are returning, they know what I'm talking about. This immersion this year is, believe me, it's the best we've ever had. I can't even go into work. The quality here is just amazing. So you want to take it in. You want to get that done, because this is going to change the way you practice.
Well put, well put. And Cary's enthusiasm is infectious, and it's worthy to note that this is not just him. This is everybody who comes to this meeting.
Yep.
This is a roll up your sleeves, let your hair down, talk about your practice, your experience, what works, what doesn't work. This is you finding your tribe. And I always comment about the difference between, because I've been working for the Academy since 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the very first time we launched, not just Vision by Design, but before that, when we were doing smaller workshops, before it was the proto meeting, before it was a multi-day experience. And talking with other people in an exhibit hall kind of format and trying to get the word out. And it was almost like speaking another language. And now that language is becoming adapted amongst the average practitioner. Myopia control, the myopia epidemic, the importance of what this is all about, how this can affect the practice. That's now a part of the vocabulary. And it's really exciting. One, because I don't have to do as much work in order to talk about it, because a lot of people who I talk to already know this information, or at least the fundamentals behind it and why it's important. And if this is something that you as a practitioner, if this sounds like something you are interested in and want to be a part of, then these people are your tribe. This is going to be coming home for you. You're going to get into this group of people and you're going to be like, this is my family. These are the people that think about this in the same way that I do. So I invite you to come down, be a part of the experience. Vision by Design is unique. There's really nothing else like it. The people are incredible. They're crazy and passionate. And it's 5 days of rock and roll, and everybody it just is bursting and brimming with energy. It's a sight to behold.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you, Cary. And it's been a pleasure as always. And I will talk with you next time.
Okay, Matt. Great.
All right. Bye.
Bye.